Some of the most heartbreaking images have been out of western North Carolina.
In North Carolina, hundreds are still missing and teams are searching the mountains for survivors.
We live in an area that never in recorded history has ever had any type of flood, any type of water damage at all up off the Blue Ridge Parkway, top of the mountains, backside of McDowell County. And whenever the storm came in, we were one of the areas that was listed as safe. You know, that everybody said highest ground you can be at, and our home was about as high as you could get up there. And we woke up early on the morning of the storm. Everything seemed normal. I mean, creek level had come up the same that it had always had, a little ways away from the house, going down the mountain, no problems at all. And then around 8:30 or 9 a.m., some water started to come down the road by our house, which had never really happened before. It was coming down from my neighbor's property. And I told him, I was like, you know, your house is really not in a good spot right now. Come down to ours. We had a generator running and everything else. They came down to our house and they said that they were trying to get down the mountain because they were just worried about trees falling and being inside of the house. Well, there was a mudslide to the north of the mountain blocking anybody from getting out, and dozens of trees were just continuously falling to the south of our road. So at that point we realized we were trapped and we were gonna have to ride the storm out no matter what happened. Probably by about 9:30, 9:45, I mean, the water was 3 or 4 feet deep, covering the whole side of the mountain, starting to come up the side of the house. John peeked out the window, a back door, and yelled, "Everybody get inside." Up on the top of the hill was what we now know is a debris flow, about 300 feet wide, about 60 feet tall. And whenever I very first saw it, it was probably about a quarter mile up the mountain away from us, and in less than 3 seconds, it was hitting the side of the house. And the entire house just imploded. And I don't mean that like floating away that you see with other homes. It exploded like you put the whole house into a blender. The last few seconds before it hit are very, very fuzzy. And then next thing you know, it's dark, getting hit by everything from roof material, trees, rocks, and moving very fast, a force of power that's just can't be explained. Just a couple of seconds into it happening, there's just kind of acceptance of death. You know that you're dead.
I went down. The floor actually fell out from underneath me and I went down and into mud and then water, and was hitting all kinds of things along the way. And that's where I was having a lot of impact on my legs.
And then just all of a sudden it stopped. It's just this abrupt stop. And as soon as it stopped, I was immediately coherent, and I just looked up and the entire side of the mountain was just gone. My leg was trapped. I immediately assessed the whole top of my hand was completely flayed open and bleeding profusely. I worked my way out of the rubble and got myself free. And I could hear my neighbor John yelling. And I was yelling back to him, trying to locate where his voice was while I was working myself free. And as soon as I got my leg free, I stood up and I turned around, and about 20 feet behind me, I saw Lindsay laying on top of a tree, in shock, soaking wet from head to toe. And I yelled out to her to be sure that she could hear me and was coherent enough, and then started trying to work my way over to where John was. I found John about 20 feet to the side of me, buried all the way up to his neck in debris, unable to move, and blood, dirt all over his face. Lindsay immediately responded and tried to start moving towards where I had found John at. As soon as she stood up to move towards the pile, the side of her leg completely just came out. Like you saw the bottom half of her leg come out about that far, as if it was just fully separated. But we eventually got him out, and the whole time he was screaming for his fiancée, Julie. We could not locate her at this point. In that moment, there was only so much I could do. At this point, we're fighting the risk of hypothermia, being barely clothed, soaking wet the way that we are. So I got Lindsay real slowly up the hill to a cabin that I had saw that had barely escaped the edge of the debris flow. I broke into it and found a first aid kit inside of the bathroom, a very basic one.
We're estimating it was like 12 to 15 hours before Swift Water Rescue was able to make it over to us. That we heard the whistles and we were like, oh my goodness, we're being rescued. So it took them some time. They walked from the bottom up to where we were because they couldn't drive and had to cut down trees and make rubble bridges, and we're so grateful for all the work that they did and finding out all that they did. It's amazing that they got to us as quickly as they did. So they strung a wire across the river. They obviously had to find the safest place to do so and find trees in the midst of all of the devastation that were strong enough to hold everything. So there is this like metal cage basically with no top on it that they put us in and kind of strung us across the river. And they let us know there's going to be a good stretch of time where we're not with you because you're going to be going over the water. I think we were in the ER for 2 days and then upstairs for 5 or 6 days. From that point forward, everyone, all the nurses, all the doctors were so empathetic and so caring and so attentive and understanding. We were just really touched by the empathy and sweetness and compassion that we felt from the team, and yeah, everybody was just incredible.
So it's a little awkward to wander around out in public because I couldn't really walk very well. I had injuries on my legs that have healed up very nicely since, but I was not walking efficiently at all whatsoever. Still cuts and scrapes all over me around my neck and everything. And the hospital food here is great. The services cafeteria are great, but we decided we wanted to get some comfort food from out in the world. And I needed to see how well I was doing with getting out and moving about to begin with. So found a pizza place that was recommended up here in Morganton and called it in, went over there to pick it up. And Dr. Loomis, I'm not sure who she was with, she just walked up to me and she's just like, "Are you okay?" Because I realized I definitely probably stuck out in the room. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." She's like, "Do you need to be at the hospital?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm actually over here from the hospital right now."
I felt compelled to just go over and talk to him and say, you know, "You look like you're in pain. Is there anything you need? Is there anything I can do for you?" Andrew went on to tell the story of just a terrifying and horrific scene. And I wanted to ensure that he was getting the care that they needed at Blue Ridge, and simply asked, "Is there anything you need? Is there anything I can do for you?" And despite his tragedy and everything that Andrew had been through, I was so struck by the fact that he quickly turned the conversation around to tell me all about how wonderful the care had been on the floor at Blue Ridge, and that everyone taking care of him felt like family. And he was immediately concerned about our general surgeon, Dr. Fontaine, and her family, because he knew that she ultimately had to leave to tend to her family, and wanted an update on her condition. And I just remember just feeling so touched at the fact that he just went through this horrible catastrophe and had lost so much: his home, his business, his vehicle, what he's been through physically. And here he was asking about the well-being of one of our providers. And it's just one of those reminders that we're all connected.
I feel I will always include UNC Health Blue Ridge as part of my rescue team. It all feels like this one cohesive, although choppy experience of the incident happening, a long wait, and then a bunch of helpers ultimately. And I see everyone on the team that interacted with us back to Swiftwater Rescue, everyone just being a part of us being alive.